Hope everyone's having a great day today. I hope everyone's doing safe and enjoyed the session so far. Welcome to today's session, or this session, which is how to incorporate Auvik into your network assessment and your QBR SOPs. So again, thanks for taking the time to join me today. Hope it's been an informative day so far for everyone. As Michelle said, my name is Philip Mahy. I'm a partner training specialist with Auvik Networks. My role is highly involved in developing training content and delivering hands-on training with our partners. So if you've ever been in our training portal, you may, or any of our live training sessions, you may have seen my face before or heard my voice. And since I'm involved in training here at Auvik, I'd be crazy if I didn't mention our training portal at training.auvik.com, which is here on the screen. If you are a current partner and if you haven't already signed up, you can check it out by going to that link. You can find our on-demand content for training and for video content, on our product. And when you become very comfortable with taking some of our learning paths in our training and maybe have deployed Auvik a few times, you can get your Auvik Certified Professional, so ACP, through this training portal. Okay, if you get 85% grade or more, you can get your ACP, Auvik Certified Professional, and you'll get a really cool certificate you can show off to your colleagues as well. So as for today's content, I do have some slides for you, but I also want to I want to dive into the Auvik product itself. And just a quick note, I have seen that the video quality isn't 100% during in-product demos on this platform today. So excuse me if the screen isn't 100% clear. I'll do my best to kind of guide you through the demo and walk you through that using my voice. So if you have any questions about using Auvik for network assessments and QBRs, we will have a Q&A at the end of the session today. So what are we going to cover today? This is the most important part. This is kind of meat and potatoes of our meal today. If you think of this as a meal for some reason, we're gonna go over the Auvik data you should be using during your network assessments and QBRs, and where to go in Auvik to extract that data. And then we're going to finish it off with some resources to help you succeed, and that will include a network assessment report, which I'm happy to show you, that will help you capture some of the things that I will be going through today. So some of the resources we'll cover at the end. But first, I want to go through some of the rough steps to a network assessment, and you know, some of the steps that you're going to take within Auvik as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deploy Auvik. We're going to get some visibility into the network, and we're going to do an initial discovery to find the things we may have not found before. And we always suggest doing this for about a week's time, if possible. Next thing we'll do is dive into some inventory investigation. So what device inventory looks like. We'll get rough counts on network devices, and things like that. And then next, we're going to look for old and outdated hardware and software. Things that might be hanging around that we didn't know in regards to the hardware and the software. We can then export the network topology to help understand how things are logically and physically set up within the environment. And then we'll dive into reviewing performance results and alerts that have occurred during that time. Again, this really depends on how long Auvik has been deployed on the site, but again, we suggest that week's time if possible. The next thing we'll do is perform a quick security analysis to see if there's any default credentials being used on the network. And once we've completed all those steps, we can bring it all together and complete any quick fixes and make strategic recommendations with confidence and proof. And we'll show you all that within the Auvik platform. Okay, first, when we're doing a network assessment, it's all about kind of learning what's on the network, right? So as we suggested, and I probably suggest this 4 or 5 times, deploy Auvik for a week's time to really gather a lot of information on the network. And I'll take you through what that information is. I mean, we've talked to partners that have discovered all sorts of crazy things with Auvik. I mean, otherwise they probably wouldn't have known we're there. So things like unmanaged switches. So that might be plugged into employee cubicles. And they could be used to connect to unauthorized devices on the network. Private access points. Users could potentially be using private access points to bypass corporate Wi-Fi. A common problem MSPs encounter is unknown switches that could be hidden in the ceiling. I know one of our partners we've talked to recently found a whole network in the back half of their building. So this helps you kind of discover these things. And unauthorized wireless devices as well. I know I heard of another one of our partners found a fingerprint door entry device, and that was generating excessive traffic on their network. So that could affect performance on all network devices. So how do we find these types of things within Auvik? First, we're going to use the device inventory. So by diving into the device inventory, you really get a feel for the network. So I'm going to jump into our Auvik product here and bring it up on screen for everybody. So, the things we'll look for, like we had kind of mentioned, are, are devices managed or are they unmanaged? Are they wired? Are they unwired? Does the client allow personal devices on the network? Well, in our inventory, this is where we can see these types of things. So first thing we're going to do is on the left-hand side in our side navigation bar, we're going to jump into inventory, which is your second option here. And we'll drop down the menu and go to all devices. So we've deployed Auvik on this network for quite some time, so we have visibility to kind of most things on the network. So you see the network topology map here on the top has lots of information on the devices. Okay, so after we've done that initial discovery, this is where we get a lot of that detail for our inventory. So when we're at inventory and all devices, I'm just going to scoot this up here. This is where we're going to see all that information. You're going to see the up status, device name type, your make and model, but you'll also be able to view the IP addresses that are associated to that device. So we're going to get some real good high-level information. You'll also see what networks they're associated with, as well as the devices they're connected to as well. Okay, so again, this gives you a lot of information on what's on the network, but we can get even more information. And I'll show you through this demonstration as well as a future demonstration as well. But we can export this data. Okay, so doing a network assessment or your QBR, you can get all of this information into a .csv file, and you can hit that export button. Now, I've already exported a week's worth of data here, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. On the front of the export, you're going to see a lot of summary information, but I want to take a look at the network elements tab here. Okay. So this can kind of bring all of that information into a spreadsheet. I mean, you're not going to just provide this just how it is. You can spice it up a little bit, put your logos on it, make it look good and customize to your company. Or you can also take screenshots to export the information not only from Auvik, but also from this export as well. So you'll see that this gives you a lot of information that we've seen within the Auvik product, and I've highlighted that information here as well. And later I'll show you some of the device information that we can get in regards to software and firmware and things like that. So that's here in the network elements tab. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to identify outdated and obsolete network devices. So this can present business and security risk for your clients, but it's also going to give you an opportunity to replace these types of devices. And how we can do that within Auvik, I'm going to show you two different things here. The first thing is I can pop actually right back into my my data export here, and I'm going to show you the devices tab. And you'll get a lot of the same information within this tab too. But you'll also be able to expand on it a little bit as well. So I've highlighted some information here in gray, so that device name. And if we fly over to the right-hand side, we'll also see software version, serial number, and firmware version of those devices as well. Now, this kind of gives you the feel for what's current and what's out of date, and you can report back on that. And if you aren't sure what the latest versions are by looking at this, and you don't know what it should be, you can navigate to the vendor websites for more information as well. So on top of that, we also have what's called the device lifecycle status. So you can view hardware lifecycle information using this feature within Auvik. So jumping back into the product here, we're going to take a look at the hardware lifecycle. So we've got home dashboard. We just took a look at inventory, and two more down, you'll see hardware lifecycle. And I'm going to take a look at the device lifecycle status. And right away, you'll see whether network equipment is still available for purchase under your sales availability here. You also see whether there's a more up-to-date software version, sorry. Also, if the device is eligible to receive critical security updates, and if it's under a current or expiring support contract as well. So all of this information, you can screenshot it. You can take some of that information from the data export that we did and include this in your network assessment process. The next thing we're going to want to do is view and export the network topology. So from this within Auvik, we can actually filter out irrelevant information or bring in relevant information we'd like to see. It's really what's going to be relevant for your client that you're working with, and you can get a highly visual and really easy to read network map. So you can not only build it within Auvik in the product itself, but you can also export that. So I'll show you how to do that now within the Auvik product here. Okay, so I've got a full network map here. We saw this a little bit earlier. It's got a lot of rich data within this, and it's we've deployed this for quite some time. But what we want to do is we want to add some filters that are relevant to the client. So over on the left-hand side, you'll see your map view and your map view legend, and then you'll see the map filter. Okay, so you can create quick filters, really what's relevant. But one thing I like to do is use the network elements only filter. Okay, so this is going to filter out any endpoints, printers, those kind of things, and only give you the core network elements. However, you may want to expand on this filter. Auvik has two out-of-the-box filters, network elements only, which we're seeing, and also layer 1 only. But it doesn't stop there. You can make quick filters as well. And maybe we want to see our network elements only, but maybe this client also wants to see their hypervisors and their servers. So if I press the question mark in any search field within Auvik, we get the ability to select a modifier. So if I hit device type and we type in hypervisor, it'll add this to the network map filter, as well as maybe our servers. Okay, so really, when you're working with the client, we want to maximize what is relevant, and we can do that through our map filters. So if we want to add this as a quick filter, we could just hit this plus button right here, and you can add to any number of quick filters you may have. Okay, so whatever we filtered on, Auvik is then going to show us that data for that information in our dashboards. But we can also export in either a PDF file or a vector graphic or a .svg file. Okay, and over on the left-hand side, just below map filter, you'll see a little arrow pointing down to export the map. So I've already exported the map, so I'll kind of just show you what it looks like a little bit. It will put a time and date stamp, give you the name of the network, and then whatever filter that you've applied, so that you can add this into your network assessment. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is things that could lead to network degradation. Okay, so most of the time, these types of issues that you may find are ticking time bombs, and they pose a real risk to the network. This could also cause downtime in the future. So it's to get insight into these types of vulnerabilities and identify potential issues is really critically important. So within Auvik, since we're looking for issues that could negatively affect the site, or whether it's now or in the future, I'm going to head over to the All Alerts tab within Auvik. So bringing back our product here on screen, and going down to our All Alerts tab, which was just above the hardware lifecycle we took a look at, and just below the inventory button here. So Auvik finds that ticking time bomb, if you will, with 50 pre-configured alerts. So if I bring up the All Alerts here and scroll it up, these type of alerts that we have are tuned to industry best practices. And again, if I haven't said already, there is 50 pre-configured alerts within Auvik. We're going to look for things like network elements going offline. I don't think we have any here right now. And we're going to want to make sure that we filter for that last week as well. So in the calendar view here, filtering for the last week. I don't think I have any critical alerts here firing within this time on the network, but we do want to look for network elements coming online or offline. Here you can see high CPU utilization that's firing quite often. We may even want to look for things like high broadcast traffic that could be in here. That could be a precursor to a broadcast storm. And again, we're just looking for anything that kind of catches our eye that could potentially lead to issues down the road. Also, things that are firing constantly. Maybe they're firing at the same time of day, or maybe they're firing one after another, like if we looked at this high CPU utilization. Why is that happening? And we can kind of dive into that and look a little further through our troubleshooting steps, and we can dive into the entity that is actually causing that issue. So if I click into that that device itself, I can start seeing some real information in regards to that device. So kind of going through that troubleshooting path. Now, if you do find something, you can include this information. You can export these, take screenshots of these graphs. You can also go into the troubleshooting view, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. If you are interested in, I know I didn't touch a whole lot or didn't dive right into alerts. If you are interested in alert tuning for maximum value, make sure to stick around to the next session today, which my colleague Guy will be diving into tuning your alerts. So, oops, sorry about that, guys. So the next thing we'll take a look at here is we'll investigate. One of the most common things that we get, I think, is internet slowness, or I can't access the internet, or my connection is really slow today. So this assessment kind of makes pinpointing these problems significantly faster, and figuring out whether it's an internal issue or an external network issue. So even if our client or prospect's connection is absolutely fine, you need to determine if there are any, if there could be any bottlenecks down the road, and which device would likely be the culprit of that. So we're going to go through two different things here. One being our network device utilization report and our internet connection check, and then we'll take a look at seeing if there's any kind of misconfigurations on the network. So back into the Auvik product here once again. This is where we're going to analyze device and interface utilization. So one of the ways we can do that is through our reports. And if we jump over to the documentation tab here, and we drop this menu down, we can take a look in our reports. And we're going to find the network device utilization report. And again, just as I had said before with your alerts, for this case, making sure that your calendar view is set for the last week to get the information from that last week. So this network device utilization, it's going to essentially show you how the network has been performing during that set of time. So I can quickly see the total bandwidth, the highs and lows, and the average utilizations. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to see the device, the network devices uptime, as well as device utilization as well. And you can take screenshots if you're finding anything maybe abnormal or that you think that could be included. And it kind of gives you some high-level information. But using our internet connection check, it kind of gives you some expanded information on packet loss or latency. So this was the network device utilization report. We're going to jump into the internet connection check here. So if we go to our inventory tab at the top on the side navigation bar, and it's just under the home dashboard, and we go to all services. I'm going to find our internet connection check, which is just second from the bottom here. Okay, and I'm going to just pick on this one right here. And here you'll be able to see any packet loss over time, or the round trip time, which reports how long it takes for ping traffic to get from our host environment to the outside interface. So a lot of variation in this graph is going to result in a poor user experience. So we can kind of get that information and include that as well. So another thing we're going to look for are any misconfigurations on the network. Okay, I'm going to take a jump over from our internet connection check back to our home dashboard at the top left-hand corner here. And our home dashboard, where we can see our network map, also it gives you summary data of all that's going on the network as well. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see detected misconfigurations. And luckily right now that this site has 0 misconfigurations. I guess that's a good thing. But if you click into it and there were any misconfigurations, you'd see kind of informational alerts from the site alerts that could lead to any potential misconfigurations. So I'm going to show you a back into the slides here. I'm going to show you an example of that. These things, type of misconfigurations, they may be minor, not an issue today, but they could also represent future problems on the network. It's always good to check any detected misconfigration from the home dashboard. So on the screen here, you'll see that this site here had 4 detected misconfigurations, and by clicking in on that, it would show you those alerts listed, like I showed you. Okay, so the last part is we've seen where some reports are. We've seen where we can take a look at the alerts. We've seen how we can export the network topology map. So the last thing we're going to touch on is doing a light security analysis. So we're going to focus on credentials that are being used, most importantly. And with security top of mind these days, credential audit is an opportunity to uncover what's already in place and good. Also gives you an idea of what can be improved as well. So looking for potential hazards in regards to security, we're going to jump into the Auvik product and take a look at our discovery menu and manage credentials. So you'll see discovery here, just in the admin section, the lower half of the side navigation bar. And if we expand that, we can go down to manage credentials. Okay, and really just on a high level, it's going to show you how many credentials that are active and that Auvik has for the devices and interfaces, how many devices that need credentials still, and how many Auvik is currently trying credentials that we've already plugged in on any of the devices. So we're going to take a look at the SNMP credentials here, the purple highlight, and also the login credentials. If you're seeing, specifically for SNMP, if you're seeing any devices using, let's say, anything default like public and private default community strings, and you can kind of expand on what devices are using that credential. You can see that in this particular example, in our demo environment, there are quite a few. So if someone got access to those, they could go pretty far and wide in the network if they needed to. So we want to make sure that we're reporting on that, and we're looking at, okay, how many devices are default? And we can also look at our login credentials to see if any devices are using admin, or Cisco for Cisco gear. And again, seeing what devices are using those credentials. And we can report back on that. So taking a screenshot of this, taking note of this, and relaying this in your network assessments and your QBRs are quite important. Okay, so we've taken you through a lot today. And I tried to do it in an order where it's digestible. We've performed an assessment. We've took a look at some of the things within Auvik that we can do and we can provide. At this point in time, it's time to document your findings. So I've been referencing throughout the presentation to add your findings to a network assessment or an assessment report. So Auvik has as a template to help you put this together. So showing here on the screen, this is our network assessment report template. And I'm going to include a direct link to the download file in the chat as well. So just to kind of give you on the screen here, it kind of gives you a quick sneak peek as to what that network assessment report looks like. So the things that we've went through, it has a spot to import screenshots as well as your findings in each of the categories. And then through inventory, firmware, software versions, the network architecture, the performance of the network, any misconfigurations or any alerts that could indicate a potential issue down the road, as well as credentials and security. So it also gives you a place for the remediation of actions taken, as well as any of your recommendations that you might have. So I'm going to, in the chat, pop a link to the network assessment report. That way you can download it and use it yourself, and hopefully that's helpful for you to include this information. Okay, so another resource we have is our custom Auvik SOPs, or standard operating procedures, to streamline common processes. Okay, so the topic we're looking at today was network assessments and QBR report. So there is a SOP or a custom SOP that we've created on completing a network assessment using Auvik. There's also deploying Auvik on a new network site, troubleshooting a slow network, and troubleshooting no network connectivity. So I'm also going to show you these so that you can kind of go through the step-by-step process that we recommend for completing a network assessment. So that's the second link, and you'll see that it says 4 network SOPs using Auvik, and then the first one being the network assessment report. Okay, so we've taken a look at a lot of information today and the rough steps to a network assessment. Now, at this point, you have some solid information about the prospect or your active customer network, and you have an assessment template to document your findings in a clear and concise manner. So it's time to complete any quick fixes and make those strategic recommendations, and you can, by all means, use the resources and tools that we left out for you, or that we've put out for you. So at this point in time, we've come to the conclusion of my presentation today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining the session. Remember those download links to the network assessment template and the SOPs that are in the chat here. And if you want to know more about SOPs, your current Auvik subscriber, your partner success manager, would be happy to discuss those with you.